Hey everybody, it's Julie. Nice to see you. Today we're gonna tackle how to finally tackle the systems in your business, even if you've been kind of putting it off for a while. So this video is for you, especially if you have like some systems in your business, but you know that like so much more would be possible if you could just like nail down some additional systems. But like it's a little overwhelming trying to figure out like what to do, how to do it. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Note, if you want to start closing up all of these time, energy, and money leaks in your business that I've been talking about over the last few weeks, I want to invite you to my January Replenish Retreat. I promise you amazingness in nature, and we'll do art, there'll be business strategy, there'll be lots of breaks. It's virtual-ish. I'm calling it virtual-ish. So it's going to be awesome. You can learn all about it in the link in my bio. And if you don't know me, I help busy, hardworking women entrepreneurs transform a business that drains them into a business that sustains them. So you've got clients, you've got money flowing in. The bigger challenge is like you're working too hard for that money. So I'm here to help. And let's see, I always have my notes over here. I've been walking through these 7 time, energy, and money leaks in your business in these videos over the last few weeks. And today I'm going to be focused on systems. So there are systems in every corner of your business, or there can be, right? Administrative systems, scheduling, money, onboarding new clients, delivering your work, right? Like how you deliver the resources for a class, that kind of thing, everything, right? And it's also where a lot of time is eaten up, where work is duplicated, where, it just kind of gets stressful, right? So I'm going to name a bunch of kind of systems challenges that I see in my clients and in my community, and just to see, like if this stuff resonates with you. And then I'm going to share obviously about how to solve for these. So one thing I see a lot, actually, even with people with very deep into their businesses, very experienced, is that they still don't have a online scheduling system, or they have one and they don't really use it because they don't want to kind of give up control over their schedule, but it ends up like the back and forth ends up eating a lot of their time up. That's one thing. Another one is payment systems. Again, even experienced business owners, you don't have a payment system that's like super easy for you and for your clients to use. That takes up a lot of extra time from people, sending contracts back and forth via email. Here's a big one: reinventing the wheel like every time something happens. So new client comes in and you're like, oh, where's that thing I need to send them? And here's the scheduling link, and I got to get them the contract, and you kind of like redo the contract, right? Like all these different pieces. And so you're kind of doing something from scratch every time that doesn't need to be done from scratch. Another example of this is, let's say you're offering a new workshop, that you don't have it all written down, like all the places that you promote your workshop. So every time you're like, oh, I got to promote there and there, and you're trying to think of it again, or you're using kind of a disorganized list instead of just having like your promotion protocol. Here are all the places that we send to, right? That we promote with, or that we co-promote with, right? I see a lot of people spending a lot of time doing their own posting on social media like every day, instead of planning in advance and using a system. Just not having your marketing strategy systematized in general. Like marketing is haphazard instead of according to a plan. You probably have a bookkeeping system, but it might not be giving you the information that you need about your business, or you might not be checking that information regularly, right? Like like actually looking at how the numbers impact your bottom line. And then even more than that, doing some future planning around setting goals, and looking forward and making projections and plans for the year, right? A lot of folks are doing the bookkeeping, which is the looking back on their numbers, but not very many people are looking forward and making projections and planning out their money, right? So that's another system to implement. And then perhaps most important of all, I see many people without clear goals and a work plan. There's like kind of some vague goals or no goals. And even if there are goals, there's not necessarily like, here's what I'm going to do kind of month by month or week by week in my business to actually get this stuff done. And if you've been in business for a while, which you probably have been, you've probably tried a bunch of systems, and again, some of them are working, but then some of them either didn't end up serving you very well, or like you couldn't really maintain them, they were too complex, or maybe you over systematized and wasted a bunch of time and money. Like I see people using kind of all in one, like Dubsado and things that include like everything in them, and it's kind of like more system than you need. That's not true across the board. Sometimes those can be amazing, but a lot of times people kind of overdo it on the system. So that's like, those are a bunch of things that I see. Now, okay, so the effect that this has on folks, right? And I don't mean to like state the obvious here, but you know, what happens is when you don't have systems is that it's frustrating, right? And it's stressful and it takes up all your time and it's like totally annoying. So, you know, you feel disorganized, things are falling through the cracks, stressing you out. You know, it might even be impacting your client's experience too. You're wasting precious time that could be spent on revenue producing activities instead of busy work, right? So it can also impact your bottom line, right? Or it could just be time that you spend on a walk or chilling out, right? And this is also an energetic drain, not having great systems, because who wants to be dealing with this stuff when you actually would prefer to be, you know, in your creative flow, doing the parts of your work that you built that you love doing, right? So why aren't folks creating better systems in their business, in their businesses? You know, I've talked a lot in these videos about the underlying mindset and beliefs that tend to be embedded, that help us, or that like kind of stop us from closing up the leaks and making these changes in our business. Now, with this particular one with systems, I honestly don't feel like it's as much about mindset as it is about a couple other things. So there's a little mindset, which I'll get to, but mostly it's really about like not knowing which social media planner to use, like which tool to pick, right? Or whether to hire somebody to just do it for you. Which system is important to do first, right? Which ones don't you actually need at all? Or you could just use a simple Google sheet to track it instead of purchasing a whole online system for it, right? So it's largely, or the challenge of finding a person to help you figure this out and actually implement it, right? You're like, I know I have to do this, but I don't know who to ask or how to do it, right? So it's largely a lack of skills, right? Which is totally understandable given that, you know, everything is an online tool these days. Like I'm not an expert at these online tools, right? Most people are not. So there's this like a lack of skills, right? And then there's overwhelm, right? So it's not about having the time or the bandwidth to figure this out. And so it's like this chicken or the egg thing where you don't have enough time to figure out a system, even though you know the system is like meant to save you time, right? And part of the reason that, you know, kind of a side note, part of the reason I include systems in my programs with my clients is not because I'm some expert at systems, right? My VA is, and she helps all of us with that stuff, but it's because you actually, you sometimes just need someone to help you prioritize, make a plan, and, you know, and just hold you accountable to actually doing the thing that's going to create the space. So I'll get to that solution part of it more in a moment, but, I will say, you know, there's a couple mindset things that can creep in related to systems. One of them is, that some people are just like kind of systems resistant. For example, you know, some people believe that, you know, systems are going to totally stifle your creativity and your flexibility. And, you know, honestly, that can be true if you have too rigid or too much system. So I totally get that. It's really about finding the minimalist, simplest system that's going to get the job done, right? That's actually going to give you more availability for creativity and give you more flexibility overall, right? And then the other underlying belief that I do see with people who are interested in growing their businesses past a certain point, it's like they're concerned that their business won't feel as connective and intimate with their clients because, you know, they're not answering every email. They're not doing the scheduling themselves, right? That loses that personal touch. And so what we need to do is learn ways to continue to have intimacy and have people feel taken care of while still taking things off of our own plates, which is totally possible. So, but again, overall, I find that the overriding problem with people not implementing systems is really more about a lack of skills and just overwhelm, right? So, the reality is that like it's not actually realistic or strategic actually to try to tackle every system at once in your business. It's just not, it's not realistic. It's not possible. So my approach to systems is a little different than, maybe a systems only coach where, or consultant, right? Where I don't believe we even should systematize everything in our businesses right away, because like you have other stuff to do, right? So what we do instead is we identify the biggest points of stress and the biggest time sucks that if you fix them with the simplest possible system, right, you will have the highest returns, right? Like what's going to give you back the most time, energy, and money immediately. And I call these like the high leverage leak closures, right? And then you can, and then also you want to let go, right, of the ones that that you don't actually need, right? Some people think they need a system for something, and actually you really don't. You can just like write it down on a piece of paper or something. You can keep it really simple, right? So we prioritize, and then system by system, we start to open up more time and space in your business and in your life. So for example, and then you can use that space to close up a bigger leak. So for example, like a simple but high leverage leak closure is creating an onboarding system. So someone signs up for your program or to work with you in some way, and they immediately receive an email that has a payment button, a contract, a scheduling button, and it links them to a page with all of the materials they need to prep for their first session. And you're not scrambling for that stuff. It's like an email away. You can put it in your canned responses in your Gmail, right? And to make a template for it. Keep it really super simple so you're not scrambling every time somebody is onboarded into your business, right? So what happens then is that this opens up some space in your business to work on some of the more complex leaks. So for example, in the first video, I talked about your business model and your offers, and shifting that around takes some effort, right? Like really clarifying who are my people and what's my message, and recreating offerings and redesigning your business model so it works better for you. That's a longer term project, and it's hard to do if there's no time in your business to do it. So we close up some high leverage leaks, we make space for the bigger, more complex ones. Another example, I'm going to talk about this one in the last video, is the work we need to do to like dismantle systemic racism in our businesses, right? And do that personal anti-racism work as well. Like this is something that gets squeezed, that's so important, that gets squeezed because you're too busy, right? So we have to close some high leverage leaks to create space for these bigger, more important shifts that we need to make internally and in our businesses. So yeah, the trick to systems in my mind is really organizing all the leaks, figuring out which ones to close first, which ones to ditch, be like, we don't need to do this right now, or you can do it later. And that's what I help my clients with a lot, is just prioritizing and implementation, or helping them find the right person to help them implement it, right? Because again, it's not like I know every system. I can just help people figure out what to do, or have my VA help them. So, yeah, and like I said, we're actually not, I also want to stress, like, I'm not hesitant to say, hey, you need to actually find somebody, or I will help you find somebody to implement that. Because some of these leaks, once you identify them, it's clear you need a system or a process. But sometimes it's like, oh no, you need a person. You need an actual person to do that for you. And it totally depends on your business and where you're at and what your goals are and what you need. But sometimes an online tool will work. And sometimes a human being to support you is going to work a lot better, right? So that's kind of it. The one thing I want to add here is, speaking of planning out your, how to seal up these leaks in your business, I want to talk about planning more broadly for a minute. Because if you haven't figured this out by now, I'm obsessed with like helping people take a step back and look at their businesses from a big picture, strategic perspective. The reason I do retreats is to help people step back, rest, replenish themselves, and be able to see with like fresh eyes, like what's really important to me, right? What do I want to do right now? What's needed right now? These bigger picture, like visionary and alignment questions that help us then create goals and a strategy that supports that, right? And then to create a work plan and a schedule and a calendar that can help us actually implement this stuff. And so it's the reason I love doing retreats, is because I love helping give busy entrepreneurs the space to do that, because we don't tend to do that for ourselves unless we've like carved out the time for it, right? But the thing is even if it feels like, oh my God, this is so scary, I don't have 3 days to take off from work to do this big picture visionary and goal setting and planning work, I want to tell you that like an ounce of vision and strategy is worth 10 pounds of like disorganized tactics. And that when you take that step back and you set goals, aligned goals, and you make plans for how you're going to do the work over the course of time, you will save yourself so much time in the long run, because you'll understand what to focus on, what to prioritize, and what you're not going to waste time on. So big picture planning is a system. This is why I'm like talking about it in this particular video, is like it's a system, and it needs also to be implemented in your business goals and work plan and all that good stuff too. So yeah, and that's like why we do these retreats. Replenish is basically in two parts. One part of it is stepping back and getting aligned and reflecting on what's worked in your business and what you're ready to let go of, right? And then what's important now and what are you committed to going forward? And then we're gonna go in and like look at all these leaks in your business and start closing them up. So if you wanna join us for that, again, the link's in my bio. You can learn all about the Replenish retreat. If you bring a friend, you both get $100 off. Which is awesome too. And we're gonna slow way down and dive deep into all of these areas. And like I said, it's technically virtual, but you're encouraged to get an Airbnb or maybe a hotel room, or just like cordon off a really special spot in your house where no one's gonna bug you. We will not be on screens all day long for sure. There'll be nature time, there will be art, there will be breaks, there will be movement. It will be really super fun. I've been doing these since the pandemic started virtually, and they've been awesome. So let me know if you have any questions next week, or maybe in a couple of days actually. I'll be doing the final leak in this 7 video series. So thanks so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.